Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. Today is a blue day, and I'll tell you why. Today I'll be reviewing the Fiio FH5s. This is going to be a multi-part video, not particularly on this IEM, but on a series of IEMs with tuning switches. We'll just call this series the Tuning Switch Hell. Let's get into the FH5s. This guy has 3 tuning switches. Yep, there we go. Bass, mids, treble. Fairly straightforward. To get into the IEM, it is a little bit important to understand its driver configuration. In this particular driver, they have a 12 millimeter beryllium coated dynamic driver for sub bass. Then they have a second dynamic driver, 6 millimeters, also beryllium coated for the mids. And then they also have 2 Knowles 30017 balanced armatures for the high end. And that is, in essence, and a huge spoiler, the biggest problem of this IEM. I don't have the original cable. I'm not a cable shiller, but I like this copper rope from Hokugi. Not for very long because it weighs a ton. It's like it is a copper rope. I do like the Fiio FH5s is one of the few now that are still using MMCX, and I have a bunch of MMCX cables from my when I first started in this listening to IEMs. So that's why I'm using this, and I bought it used. So I bought this thing for I think $130 Canucks bucks. So $100 US is what I paid used, and they're still, and you can, I think they're still selling these things new for under 200 US. It isn't worth it, straight up, and I'll tell you why. Back to, so that's the driver configuration of these, and it's kind of a also one of the propaganda things on the Fiio says semi-open back design. These things do honestly look stunning. The shells are solid. They look fantastic. And these have huge potential, or had with the drivers anyway, until Fiio killed it. Anyway, so there's the 3 switches, the open back design, great shell shape, beautiful construction, came with a nice cable, everything was going for it. Yeah, it's wicked. You can change the tuning to your desired effect or tonality that you like, and away you go. And now, that was the techie specs. Into the subjective part of my thing. I'll say too that the Fiio FH5s, everything that I review, I want to give it its best. So I will tip roll, I will source roll, I will try to do its very best to bring out the best of this. I'm never going to use probably the factory tips or factory cable. I won't unbox anything. To none of that matters to me. Probably not to you either. And so I will go over some listening impressions, and I used 26 tracks, and I posted this, and I'll see if I can link it as well. That I use consistently to test IEMs, and it ranges from classic rock. I my preference is female vocals, and I also like bass, lots of mid bass where male vocals sound good, but not too much female vocal weight because of the added mid bass. I still want their vocals to sound good. And if I have to take a little bit more note weight on the mid bass to get a better male vocal and sacrifice a little bit on the female vocals, I'm okay with that, but I'd rather go the other way. But not too much. Maybe I'm just finicky. But that's what I know what I like, and that's what I like. And I'm a little treble sensitive, so I don't like anything that's too bright or shrill. One thing to also note that there's a BA. The BAs are right in the nozzle, and that also plays part of the tonality of the FH5s. And also, I think you either love that or hate it. I was not a lover. Just when I finally got to the right ear tips and different sources, it did sound best on the desk with the Gishelli AKM J2 and the topping A90D. That was its best combination. So we'll, in the tuning switches, also throw that into the mix there. And I'll get into that a little bit. Just talk about some, and I'm not going to go through every track on this review. I will say, God, I hate reviewing IMs with tuning switches. My 26 tracks are 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 3 seconds long. Times it by 3 in order to be fair. So I tried one with the treble switch up, the mid bass switch up, which actually reduces mids, and the bass switch up, which increases the bass. It's a bit confusing, but you'll understand why when I get into more of the IM. Just to talk about library and those 26 tracks, I'm not going to go over all because I noticed something right away. So I'd listen to this track, and then I'd flick the switch and listen to it again, flick another switch, listen to this, flick another switch. So 3 times, write down my impressions. And there was a pattern clearly emerging right from the get-go. So for me personally, I liked 100, which was bass switch on, and no treble reduction and no high-end reduction. Again, treble sensitive. And the other one that was okay was 110, where it was taking away some of the mid-range. And that, again, is the problem with this particular IEM and its tuning. So in tracks, all my notes kind of said the same. In fact, I just kind of looped around, put an arrow to the next one. Beautiful voice on 110 for females, too thin for males. I like 100 better. More natural for female vocals on 110. And that was even true when I tried to put on a warmer source. So I put on 110, reduces the mid-range, and I tried to put on a warmer source to try to add some of that back in. I, honest to God, did my best to make this IEM lovable, and I didn't find it so much. So that was kind of the real synopsis of this IEM, was that in adding in bass is great. I love bass. It's a very fast driver. It's very, very quick. EJ07Ms with my plus 3 dB sub boost, they're very close. In the bottom end, the EJs still have more weight to them and more natural sounding than the Fiio did, even with that bass boost on. So that, and the FH5s definitely has BA timbre. You can hear a metallic sheen when in the high end. Definitely exaggerated when you hit the treble switch to the on position. So it has lots of things going on for it that, this thing could have been spectacular. 2023 is the going to be the year of double dynamics, it seems. And so here's a double dynamic driver with two more BAs. This thing should be stellar. And tuning switches. Like, were they ahead of the game? No. Somebody at Fiio messed up big time. So let me just, and I read those notes for that, go past all that. The Fiio use excellent drivers. Everything, if this was just tuned without the switches, they could have had a stellar IAM. But they threw in the tuning switches, and here's the biggest problem. To me, when I used to build speakers, old school way, we had capacitors to reduce the high frequencies, we had resistors, and we had coils to reduce or slope off, bleed off the highs. That was the traditional, what's in your loudspeaker at home, in the non-electronic version. So we used to tune our systems and our speakers with using those components. And the combination of components, you would listen to something and you would say, okay, well, just using a simple one, your slope, 6 decibels per octave, is a very gentle slope, and it allows the driver to, say you cross it over at 100 hertz and use a 6 decibel per octave slope, you'll still get information past 100, 150 hertz. You'll still have a little bit of information, but it'll be a very gentle slope. If you were to cross it over faster, 12 dB, 18 dB, 24 decibels per octave, your slope is much, much faster, and you get less bleed from whatever you have tuned, or that component will cause that frequency to cut off or roll off. Same as capacitors. So you're listening to something and you're tuning it with either resistors, capacitors, coils. IEMs are that version, but miniaturized. And so what Fiio did is to me, it sounds like they crossed over this sub quite steep, it sounds like, or very, very low. So it's only doing sub frequencies. And now the biggest problem is that 6mm Barry driver, and it must be crossed. It's still playing lots of information, 60 hertz all the way up to 1,000, and it's a big dynamic range for that one driver. And then the BAs sound like they're playing just real highs and ultra highs. So bass switch on gives a bass boost to the 12mm, and it does do that effect. And these tuning switches on the Fiio FH5 are not night and day, not like the Yanyan Canon. So in this series of videos, I will have 4 IEMs with tuning switches. This is utter hell. 3 on the Fiio, 3 on the Yanyan Canon, which is coming up next. Then I have a Joy Audio Shine with 4, and the TRI Star River coming in with 2. So I'll do a final one, maybe to sum up all these IEMs with that. So the crossovers again, so the 6mm, when you hit that mid switch, you would think on the 3 that it would have bass boost, mid-range boost, treble boost, but it actually is bass boost, mid reduction, treble boost. And why is that, and why does it come super important on this IEM? Because If you were going to then reduce the overall volume of the 6 millimeter dynamic, and it's playing into lower mid bass, and it's playing into upper harmonics in the top end vocals, like this is the most important driver in this thing. And if you reduce that, well, now you're getting a bassy, muddy, undynamic, unthrilling. I wouldn't even use the word thrilling. I would just use a boring. Yeah, you're getting a really boring tuning. There's no highs, there's no soundstage, there's no definition, there's no nothing. It's just mush. Flick the switch off, then you get the more air definition. Female vocals are better, and you add more note weight into the bottom end as well, so that comes back, but it makes female vocals sound funky. There is no good position that I have tried with the FH5s in any position that would make you not want something in one of those positions. It's either missing this or too much of that, and it's noticeable in a big way. And I can only say that the Fiio just really shit the bed on the tuning and the crossover selection and where it's crossed over. You've kind of done so much better job with that. Yeah. So obviously the tuning switches are there. How useful are they? I would say not really great. Back to setting 100, bass boosted, mids not muted, trebles not boosted, but this setting kills the stage. Micro and macro dynamics suffer, female vocals just way too thick. Setting 110, bass boosted, mids gets snipped in output volume, and there is the problem. Treble's not boosted. The bottom line is, yeah, there was just no good combination in any one of those. One of the things that Fiio was toting was how great their stage was with that semi-open back. That would have applied if, in fact, you had cranked up the highs, turned off the bass, and left the mids the way they were. Definitely not my preferred tuning, and it really didn't do good because then you got that BA timbre, and it was glaring and harsh. Really was the only way I can describe that, and not a enjoyable, fun listen. So even at 100 where there's bass, I mean, I bought these things because I didn't have any MMCX IEMs at the time, and I had them on my Hibby WU1, the wireless MMCX pieces I had. Fantastic unit, and I used it for the gym. And up until now, and I've had these for quite a while, probably a year, and I've never done a critical listen of these things because I just stuck them in my ears. I was doing a workout, and away we go, right? It was okay. Then I did the playlist, did some critical listening, and picked it apart and tried to find the good things in this thing. And it's going right back on the WU1 and thrown into my gym bag. That's where it's going. In case my AirPod Pros die as a backup. So there you go. If they get stolen, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to really cry much. That is just, I'm going to wrap it up. And if you want to read more into it, I've done a written review, and I'll post that on, Head-Fi and Hi-Fi Guides and Facebook group, Chi-Fi Love on Facebook and read a little bit more about it. But I'm done for now with this tuning switches and the Fiio FH5s. I hope. Well, Canon's coming up next, so and I like it, and I actually haven't played too much with the things, and I'll do the same thing with the Canon and see where we end up. So thank you very much again. Much appreciate the likes and the comments and the subscriptions to all you. Tone Deaf Monk out. I'm sorry. I was going to let you go, but I remembered that I did touch a bit on the stage and the Fio's marketing hype about how wide and open and wonderful and spacious it was. Again, on that highs, if you had your boosted, that's great. You would get that, but on the two tunings that I had that I could stand, that there was none. There was width. I'll give it that. There was zero depth right in your head and right there. That's where it was. Extremely disappointing, and I do like my stage, and this was one of the worst that I've ever listened to. Goodbye. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll let you go after this. Don't buy this IM. It isn't worth your money. If in fact you already have it and you find some redeeming qualities for it, I am super happy for you, and enjoy.